And here I am again, seeking to find some way to express and communicate, not just to you, but to the world, how easy it is to be finished with misery and suffering in this life, right now, and in the finishing of misery and suffering, how really all the problems of the human race disappear. But my problem is not to find a way to impress upon you how wonderful life is, or how sweet it is, or how beautiful it is, or loving, or any of that stuff. Because that's easy, there are poets that have done that. There are musicians and singers and songwriters that have done that. There are preachers that have done that and done it well. There are sutras and shastras and Upanishads and all kinds of spiritual utterance that have been devoted to persuading us or describing to us how wonderful life is, how wonderful existence is, how ubiquitous and universal is the bliss of being. So I don't even bother with that too much. I guess sometimes I slip into it, but that's not my purpose. That's not my my work here. My purpose in my work is to find a way to communicate to you and to everyone who can hear how easy it is to be finished with the experience of misery and suffering. That's the only thing that prevents us from seeing for ourselves what a wonder existence is. And it's the easiness of it that's so difficult to convey. You see, all of us, I imagine probably all of us here, have at some time in our life heard about the spiritual realm and how it offered a solution to our problems. Heard the descriptions, heard the spiritual utterances, and were taken by them. And embarked on some spiritual endeavor, some spiritual path, some spiritual practice with the intent of, I guess, finding enlightenment or awakening or self-realization. But we seek these things, almost all of us, we seek these things with the underlying goal of curing the ills in our life. What I mean by that, we know what the problems are. We know what the mistakes and the misunderstandings are that plague us, our mind, our consciousness, our lives. We know really that within the life itself, if we could rid ourselves of hatred and resistance and animosity and judgment and all of those things, if we could find a way to have the desire, to have the open-heartedness that accepts all present as our state in this life, if we could be finished with blaming our problems on others, if we could be finished with believing that we are going to find satisfaction by attaining wealth or fame or love, even, if we could rid ourselves of the belief that we could find satisfaction by attaining anything, that then would be all right, that then we would be in the enlightened state, the awakened state, the realized state, and all our problems will be finished. So we enter the spiritual realm with the idea of curing the things that are wrong with us, of either by the thunderbolt of enlightenment, which wipes out all the negativity and the misunderstanding and the confusion and the contraction and the selfishness and the lust in one fell swoop, or by the patient training of the mind so that the things that are good in the mind, the things that are not harmful, the things that are welcoming and loving and open-hearted are encouraged, and the things that are contracted and selfish and desirous and hateful are washed away. That we would in these lives then be finished with misery and suffering. We would in these lives then be finished with the hatred and antagonism, the self-hatred and the greed that are the root of our trouble. And we work on these things with some degree of success or no degree of success, or sometimes it feels good, sometimes it doesn't feel good, sometimes we feel like we're doing right, sometimes we don't feel like we're doing right. But we're okay because we're on the right track. We're seeking enlightenment. We are seeking to cure the disease in our lives. We're seeking to cure the negativity in our lives. So we're on the right track. We may not get there this lifetime or this week or this month, but we're doing the right thing. And in the meantime, we continue with our yearning and our sense that we haven't quite got it, that we have some way to go, that we'll get it someday. And this, in my experience, is pretty much the state of the spiritual world. And the thing that I'm trying to point to, and I know I ramble on quite a bit, but the heart of the matter that I'm trying to get to is this belief that what we have to do is fix our lives, is fix our minds. And therefore, enlightenment or spiritual aspiration has as its utility the prospect that it will do just that. It will fix our lives. It'll fix our minds. It'll rid us of the negative and accentuate the positive and so forth. So that the quest for enlightenment, the quest for spiritual realization or spiritual fulfillment or whatever is a means to an end. And the end that it is the means to is the reformation or transformation or transcendence of our lives, our minds, our desires, our hopes, our fears, our wrong-headedness, our right-headedness. And that's the problem, really. It certainly is true that spiritual practice, spiritual aspiration, spiritual work is a means to an end. That certainly is the case. And it certainly is the case that what we seek and what we hope and expect to get from spiritual work is ending of misery and suffering, an ending of the internal warfare of my wanting this and not wanting that, and trying to get this and trying to get rid of that, which itself, writ large, is the story of humanity. All that's certainly true. But what we miss is, and what it's totally understandable that we would miss this, even though, of course, we've been told differently for thousands of years. What we miss is that the point has nothing to do with doing anything at all about the life, which we already know from our life experience we seem to have almost nothing to say about anyway. I mean, thoughts come, thoughts go, desires come, desires go, antagonistic impulses come, they go, impulses to compassion and love come, they go, quite beyond our intent or our desire. So the end, that is the target of spiritual work, we misunderstand to be working on our lives, on our thoughts, on our minds, on our consciousness, and so forth. And therefore, when we engage in spiritual work, even the work of self-inquiry, the first place we look to see whether we're doing it right or whether we're on the right track is in our lives, in the way we think about things, and the kind of thoughts that come to us, and the desires that come to us. Is there less confusion or more confusion? Do I hate more or hate less? Am I a loving person? Am I an accepting person? Do I have a feeling of open-heartedness and generosity in this life? And if I don't, then I must be doing something wrong. I better try something else. The truth is so much simpler than that, that it is almost impossible to convey. The truth is that all of the stupidity in our minds and our lives is beside the point. We have nothing to do about it. There's nothing we can do to change it. There's nothing we can do to make it stay. There's nothing we can do to make it sweet instead of sour, or sour instead of sweet. These inclinations, these predispositions, they arise on their own. Thoughts themselves arise on their own. The experience of separation arises on its own. We can't do anything about any of it. And we ought to know that by now, since we've been trying so hard for so long. But even that, the idea that we ought to fix our lives, isn't a problem. None of it's a problem. None of it. Not a single thought. Not a single desire. Not a single moment of ignorance. None of that's a problem. None of it. The problem is that I believe myself to be this bundle of thoughts, desires, good things, bad things, good thoughts, bad thoughts, confusion, clarity, hatred, love, generosity, greed, all of which come and go, change places, dance as these lives, as these minds. And the problem is, and this I can't say enough, is that I believe myself to be that bundle of phenomena that is this life. So long as I believe myself to be this life, this mind, these thoughts, the good and the bad and the ugly, so long as I believe myself to be that, I am filled with misery and suffering and hopelessness. I am filled with the certainty that I am failing. I am driven by the anxiety and fear that is the engine of this entire bundle of thoughts and desires and actions and behaviors and aversions and attractions and so forth. Now, if that is the problem, then nothing that I try to do within this life, nothing I try to do to rearrange the thoughts or to make the good thoughts more prevalent and the bad thoughts less prevalent, the generosity more prevalent and the greed less prevalent and so forth, nothing that I do within this actually wondrous bundle of thought and feeling and desire, nothing that I do within it can possibly in any way even diminish the belief that I am it. Anything that I do within it to try to fix it as the solution can only feed and increase and intensify the belief that this is me, that I am at stake here, that I better get this right, that I better do this right. And it's that's the source of the misery and suffering. This deep-seated, unexamined, unseen certainty that I am at stake here, that I better get this right, that I better do this right, that I better get rid of these bad things and hold on to these good things. So the simplicity of it is that instead of even trying to rid myself of the effort to fix the mind, even that is beside the point. So instead of trying to do anything or stop trying to do anything about the mind, about the life, about the behaviors, about the desires and the opinions and so forth, instead of all of that, what I really need to do is find out how to, if this is true, if it's really true that the problem is this false belief, then the only way that I can find out that it's true, and the only way is also the only way that I can do anything about it, which is to try to figure out how I can rid myself of this false idea, this idea that I am my life. And you see, now we've departed from the spiritual realm here, and we're in a different realm. We're in a realm that has to do with the desire to know the truth, rather than the desire that the truth be, oh, I don't know, enlightenment or Buddha mind or emptiness. We've moved into a different realm, the desire to know the truth. Now, it's nothing new for us to be told that the problem is a false belief about what we are. What's new is for us to be told that the thing for us to do about that is to find out what I am in truth for myself, not to confirm some other person or some previous wise man's beautiful utterances about what I am, but to find out what I am really for myself. Now we're in the realm of wanting to know what's real, not wanting to be good, not wanting to be enlightened, but wanting to know what's real. And that's a lot simpler than becoming enlightened. That's a lot simpler than straightening out this life. The simplicity of it is contained within the proposition itself. If the problem is a false belief about what I am, then the solution must be the truth of what I am, and the truth of what I am is always here, you see. It's never absent. I am never absent. All the things that happen in me. All the things that arrive in me. All the good things, all the bad things, all the confusion, all the clarity, all the desire for clarity, all the love, all the greed, all the hatred. All of these things come and go and have their being in me, and I am here always. So it would seem that, just common sense would tell us that, if all that needs to happen is for me to see the truth of what I am, to be aware of the truth of what I am, then that's easy, because I'm always here. And actually, the fact of the matter is, I am always aware of myself. There's never a moment when I am not aware of myself. So now we're in the realm of wanting to know the truth about what I am and seeing that that is present always. It's not hard. It's not far. It's not something new. It's me. It's this feeling of being me. Not the things that come and go in me, the good things or the bad things, the ego or the egolessness, not those things, but just this kind of me-ness that's here always and that never changes. It's never absent and it never changes. One of the techniques for getting a glimpse, a taste of this reality of what I am is to look and see whether no matter what is playing within the life, no matter whether it is the most magnificent and wondrous experiences of all or the most miserable experiences of all, no matter what is playing within this life, can I not see whether or not any of this touches me, affects me, changes me? In order to see that, I have to look at, well, me, myself, this background presence, this background reality that doesn't move, doesn't change, is unhurt and unhelped by any of the drama and the beauty and the horror of my mind, my secret desires, my pettiness, my generosity, my hatred, my love. And the only usefulness of anything that speaks of these matters, like I tell you that you are untouched and unchanged by any of the storm and horror of your life. And the only use of even suggesting that to you is to give you a clue as to where to look. Look to see what it is that's here that's not touched by it. Is that not you? Is that not always here? And the point of this is not to persuade you that you are always here, or even that you are untouched or uncontaminated by anything that happens within your life, but just to get you to look at yourself. Because that's really how simple it is. It doesn't take understanding it. It doesn't take being persuaded of it. It doesn't take having good experiences or bad experiences. It only takes looking at this reality as often as you can. as often as you can, whenever it occurs to you. Because this is really how simple it is. It's the looking that does the work. Period. End of story. It's the looking that does the work. So everything I do in these meetings, whether they're in this ethereal online experience, or together face to face, or on the phone, or by email, or in any case, the only thing that my work entirely, so far as I can see, is to try to persuade you, and by you I mean, well, the whole human race, individually, each of you, to look at yourself as often as you can. Because here's what I promise. I promise that if you will look at yourself just as often as it occurs to you to do so, don't worry about all the other stuff that's going on in your mind. Don't concern yourself with it. Don't even concern yourself with the fact that you're concerned about it. Just look at yourself. Look at what doesn't change. Look at what's here, always here. Look at what's never absent, what's ordinary, the same, as often as you can, as often as it occurs to you to do so. And my promise is that no matter what else is happening, no matter what you might think is happening or believe is happening, over time, this despicable lie that you are this life will be eaten away. And sooner or later, no matter how long it takes, it will be before you notice it. Sooner or later, it'll be gone. And with it will be gone the deep-seated anxiety and fear that is the product of the conviction that you are at stake in these things, that you're on the line here, that you got to get it right. And when that anxiety and fear and the idea that you're at stake is gone, so too will all the misery and suffering in your life. Not the pain and hardship, but the misery and suffering. And when that's gone, so too will be gone this internal warfare that is the source of all warfare, all murder, all hatred whatsoever in the world. So, this whole business is way too simple to be communicated simply. This whole business is way too easy to be believed. But this is self-inquiry. And it's not spiritual. And the goal is not enlightenment. The goal is not to wake up. The goal is not realization. The goal has nothing whatsoever to do with healing your mind. Nothing. The goal of self-inquiry is in the realm of the desire to know the truth. And as has been said, the truth will set you free. The truth will set you free of the false belief that you are your life, and bring to you the certainty that what you have been trying to see, you have always already been seeing. And what you have been trying to know, you have already always been knowing.